How you doing, guys? Chris here. Well, I got some new motors in today, and these motors are something special. These are pretty cool. These are the new XING 2 2506 at 1650 kV. And a lot of people have been running these on a 5-inch. I think you could get away running this on a 7-inch, not even a small 7-inch, like a real standard 7-inch. But we're gonna run this on a 5-inch, a 6-inch, and eventually we'll run it on a 7-inch. But for right now, the primary purpose of this 2506 motor is to put on this frame right here. This is the QAV-S Joshua Bardwell edition, and I'm pretty excited about that frame. Not because of the name, but because of the residence testing that was already done on it. I'm pretty certain that I'm gonna have a lot easier time tuning this thing since half the work is already done. I know Joshua said that these motors aren't a good substitute for the Kebab FPV cycle 5-inch motors, and that's fine. I've seen their racing quad with this motor on there, and whoo, that thing is fast. So I'm pretty sure these motors are gonna be fine. So let's do a quick weight on this thing. Let's take a look at the stator, and let's put it on a quad. So I'm thinking about, putting it on clearance quad just for the sake of putting it on clearance quad and seeing how it does, since I do that to all of my motors. But obviously the primary intent of this was to put it on the QAV-S frame. So I think I might do both. We'll see how the test flight goes. If the test flight doesn't go so well, because these look like really big motors and they might shake this little frame to bits. So we might have two flight footages, one on clearance quad and then one where I build out the QAV-S and then fly it on those motors, and then you can see the difference. I think that might be what we end up doing. All right, so let's see what one of these weighs with all of this wire. And I'm telling you, this is a lot of wire and it's pretty thick. So let's put that on the scale. So that guy right there, did I zero it out? Let me just make sure it's zero, because that looked really heavy. Is that really true? Wow, with all of that wire, the XING 2 2506 at 1650 kV is 41.7 grams. That is a heavy motor. All right, let's take a look at this wire though. So this is not your typical wire. This feels really good. So it's definitely that nice silicone wrapped wire. It's not that cheap wire stuff that melts when you apply heat to it. Obviously the ends are tinned for you already, but who's gonna need this much wire? I mean, this is what you run off of like a 9-inch. So that's a lot of wire. Obviously you have to trim it. So let's trim it, because I'm gonna be running race wire anyway. This is crazy thick. So I like to run a thinner quad, a lighter quad. So I'm gonna measure out to this race wire LED strip, and then I'll do the same. I'll run it on the QAV-S with LEDs. So let's cut that and then get another weight. All right, let's see. How much wire weight did I just trim off this motor? Let's see. .3 grams. That's some weight right there. All right. So, trimmed motor to fit a race wire. It's about 36.2 grams. Let's see with a prop nut. Oh yeah, that's gonna be nice. Let's see, 2 screws, 1 and 2. So 37.5 grams to mount that on a quad, just one. So the motor alone, 36.1. Not bad for a motor this big. That is not bad at all. So let's take a look at the motor. All right, the motor. Let's move my scale out of the way here, it's very distracting. So the motor. So right away, I'm noticing this is so smooth. I mean, ridiculously smooth. For a motor this big, I expected it to be a lot more notchy, but man, this is nice. 16 by 16, I was actually surprised by that as well, being such a big motor. I thought it would be like 16 by 19, but nope, 16 by 16. It's got the screw holding the bell on, so we'll take that off real quick. Windings look fine. I wouldn't say there's anything spectacular about them. The magnets are curved. They look kind of small. Let me take the bell off and get a better look at them. Maybe this lip is hiding some of the magnet, but it looks like thin magnets. And air gap, oh man, air gap is non-existent. I mean, I can't see between the magnet and the stator. So, and it's smooth, so that's nice. That is nice. So like I said before, this is the XING 2. It is a unibell, pretty tall 5mm shaft. It's hollow. All right, so we got this guy all soldered up, and the motors look good. They went on pretty easily, and yeah, they don't look that big. I mean, of course they look bigger, but they don't look monstrous. So even on clearance quad's not exactly a big frame, but hey, you know, they'll fit. Hopefully everything will go well. If not, I got the QAV-S frame all built up and ready to go. I had a couple of issues, and I'll cut in with a build scene later, or maybe even just another video. But long story short, the included instructions that come along with the QAV-S frame here, these guys right here, they they mislabeled all the sizes of these screws. So you basically are 2 to 3 millimeters larger in the screw size that you need. Probably because I think Joshua asked for thicker bottom plates and stuff like that, and center plates. Maybe that's why they had to put thicker screws on, but then didn't change the directions on how to assemble. So for a minute, I was struggling trying to find the right screws, and eventually I just went in to my spares and I started pulling out these M3 by 12 screws, and then I realized what was actually going on was you needed, you know, the M3 by 16 screws, which they did include enough of. So they just mislabeled everything, no big deal. Like I said, we'll put these motors on this frame. I'll build that out, but we're gonna do a quick hover and test flight on clearance quad, because that's what clearance quad is for. So let's get that going. A little different view. Grass is kind of wet, so I'll take off from here and try to land it from here. So this is the iFlight XING 2 2605 1650 kV on Ethics Lemon Lime props. This is a 6S battery. We'll do a quick hover, a punch out, and then we'll go for a flight. Woo! Something doesn't sound right. Let's check that.
So I couldn't fly clearance quad sounding like that with all that twitching and whatnot. So I went ahead and swapped the motors and put them on the QAV-S frame.
All right, so here's the new build. This is the QAV-S with the XING 2506 1650 kV motors. So this is a 30 by 30 ESC with the larger FETs. I think these are 45 or 50 rated amps. So bigger, beefier ESCs for these bigger motors. I think that was the problem. Those little 20 by 20 small FET ESCs rated for 35 amps just couldn't handle those big motors.
Plus this is BL Heli 32 as opposed to BL Heli S ESCs, so I bet that has something to do with it too. So let's give it a quick hover. Yeah, already 100 times better.
So I keep tapping the ground here because there's so much low end power. I'm very low in the throttle. So when I back off just a little bit, it taps the ground.
Give it a quick punch out. The low end is so strong on this thing. All right, let's give it a flight.
So here's the QAV-S frame, and this is the maiden flight as well as the test flight. So this first lap here is just me making sure all the bugs are worked out. It doesn't twitch, it doesn't do anything crazy. And then I get a little bit more aggressive just to test out the motors. Right now you're looking at stock PIDs because I haven't done any tuning yet. And I set the filters to 1.2 just to give it something to start with. So here I get a little bit aggressive with it. I do a little speed run just to see how much current draw there is with these motors. And it gets up there. I think the current draw was about 43, but for the size of these motors, that's completely understandable. And here I do just a nice slow pass just to see what the current draw is, just barely moving forward, barely cruising. And this was about 9 amps. This is without a GoPro, and the quad weighs about 550 grams. So what do I think about these motors? I think if you want absolute control of your quad in the air, these motors are ideal. I felt like I could do anything in this frame. So I typically fly a 2306 on my 5 inches, and this 2506 is a definite noticeable improvement on handling. Without having a tune on it, as you can tell, this thing looks crystal clear. So there's not a lot of motor noise going on here, but I'm still gonna have to give it a good tune and put a GoPro on it. You'll be seeing a lot more of this frame. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.